David Bowie's first hit single, Space Oddity, was considered by many to be a novelty song. Even so, the 22-year-old performer held on to his dreams of fame and set out to live the life of a rock star. In the fall of 1969, David and his girlfriend Angie rented a 30-room mansion in London and invited several friends to live with them.
We were about 7 people. We were like college kids. We had parties and all kinds of strange people came in. It was really nice. It was like a hubbub of creativity.
In 1970, as Bowie planned his next move, the rock world was stunned by the breakup of the Beatles, followed closely by the drug-related deaths of Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin. By now, drug use was common among musicians and fans alike. David himself experimented, as did singer Lou Reed, who pulled no punches in writing songs about the trend. Bowie admired Reed's music, which pushed the boundaries of rock and roll by exploring themes of unconventional sex, cross-dressing, and social unrest.
Lou Reed was very important for all of us that thought we were very hip in those days, that's for sure. Because Lou was out of the box.
Lou Reed and his group, the Velvet Underground, were part of Andy Warhol's artists' consortium, The Factory. David was intrigued by Warhol's revolutionary approach to creating art. But the singer's fascination with American avant-garde artists didn't stop there. He was also a fan of a raucous, over-the-top rocker named Iggy Pop.
Nobody ever said they liked Iggy and the Stooges. You just didn't admit to that in 1970 unless you were cross-dressing or on some sort of drugs or had just dropped out of life or high school, really.
David was drawn to Iggy's wild nature. And in time, Bowie would incorporate aspects of the American avant-garde into his own work.
David is a master of embracing a number of disparate elements and then fusing them into something totally unique.
In the spring of 1970, David formed a new group with the tongue-in-cheek name, The Hype. The band included Mick Ronson, John Cambridge, and Tony Visconti.
I went on the stage in a white leotard. I was Hype Man, and David was Rainbow Man, wearing like all these diaphanous scarves like hanging from his wrists and all that.
David found that performing as a fictional character gave him more freedom to express himself through music.
I was not a natural performer. I didn't feel at ease on stage. But I felt really comfortable going on stage as somebody else. And it seemed a rational decision to keep on doing that.
But audiences who saw The Hype didn't like the costumed band members.
They were yelling at us the whole time, calling us faggots and whatever, you know, whatever filthy homophobic name you can think of.
David was upset by the crowd's response, but sexual slurs were not enough to make him retreat into more safe styles of performing. 1 month later, in his childhood home of Bromley, the maverick artist made a surprisingly conventional move when he married Angie. David's mother attended the ceremony, but the wedding didn't change the rules of David and Angie's open relationship. Following his marriage, the singer took a bold step in his professional life when he ended his 4-year affiliation with his manager, Ken Pitt.
This new thing, this kind of psychedelic rock thing, which was happening in the late 60s, Ken had no idea what this was about. And David, you know, being a young man, saw the future flash before his eyes, and Ken Pitt didn't quite fit into that.
Bowie soon signed with a new manager. Lawyer Tony DeFries was in sync with David when it came to music and promotion.
He said, I'm going to make you as big as a skyscraper. Tony DeFries would have painted sparrows yellow and sold them as canaries.
Angie also played a role in helping David break out from the growing crowd of aspiring rock stars. She suggested that her husband assume a more androgynous look, and soon David was wearing feminine clothing, even dresses.
I don't think he would have worn a dress without Angie's encouragement. She said that it's okay to do this. She's outrageous. She's a very outrageous woman, and David definitely needed a dose of outrageousness in his life at the time.
Bowie's new cross-dressing style quickly captured the attention of the press, who seemed to be more interested in David's sexual preferences than in his music.
You'd see it in the tabloids at the time. That was, you know, wowie, bowie, and people were always yelling at him, are you a boy or a girl?
David appeared on the cover of his next album, The Man Who Sold the World, with long locks and wearing an elegant gown. One reporter commented that the singer looked more like Lauren Bacall than a rock and roll star. David laughed off the taunts and innuendos and surprised the public even further in May of 1971 when he and Angie welcomed a son, Zoe Bowie. David was thrilled to be a father, but there was little time to enjoy his new child. His career was finally gaining momentum, and within weeks he was scheduled to travel to New York to sign a lucrative contract with RCA. David's first album with his new label was Hunky Dory, which included the hit single Changes. Not long after releasing the song, Bowie made an announcement that changed the way the world looked at him. In an interview in the trade paper Melody Maker, the flamboyant new star declared that he was gay.
That was incredibly brave, very brave.
There was some kind of British horror, shock horror, outrage in the press, as there always is. But I remember thinking, oh yeah, good for you.
With the media attention, Hunky Dory record sales jumped, and David Bowie's career took a quantum leap.
The timing was impeccable, so it's debatable whether it was calculated or not, but he certainly used it. He used it, definitely. It brought more attention to the music, which was the desired effect.
The gender-bending mystique of David Bowie was now firmly established. The cross-dressing bisexual with a wife and child was the talk of the music industry. But David Bowie's next outrageous move would surprise even his growing legion of fans. He was about to transform himself yet again, and forever change the face of rock and roll. In 1972, Jesus Christ Superstar was rocking audiences on Broadway. Pioneer 10 was launched into space, carrying messages for potential extraterrestrial life forms. And a burglary in Washington, D.C. started a scandal that would force President Richard Nixon out of office. That same year, 25-year-old David Bowie took all the elements he'd learned about the performing arts and fused them together to create a daring, new stage persona, Ziggy Stardust.
Now Ziggy play guitar, jamming good with weird and spiders from Mars. When he played it left hand, but he made it too far, became the special man. Then he would sing his band.
One of the inspirations for David's character was a 1950s American rock singer named Vince Taylor.
He was out of his gourd, totally flipped. I mean, the guy was not playing with a full deck.
Taylor was convinced that there was a connection between himself, UFOs, and Jesus Christ. During one performance, Taylor announced that he, in fact, was Jesus Christ.
And it was the end of Vince, his career, and everything else. And it was that and his story which really became one of the essential ingredients of Ziggy.